Allah. Think about that. Listen, pay attention. Thought it not robbery to be equal with Allah. In other words, the Word was with mighty one, and the Word was mighty ones. You see? Verse 7. But made himself of no reputation. In other words, it took humility now on Yahweh Elohim's part. Let's take our mind back to something else that we've already been through when we were talking about the truth about Hebrews, Israelites, and Jews. Yaakov, don't fear to go down into Egypt. Go down, because it's there that I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to come down with you, and I'm going to bring you back up again. You see that? So now, let's not just focus on what the letter says, because we also learn from Brother Shaul that we know that the Torah is spiritual. So there's an underlying meaning there. So when we look at Egypt, Egypt is only symbolic of the world. Don't fear to be a part of this world. Branch out, spread out. See, it's within this world system, in other words, that we become a great nation. And one of the things he said, that he was going to come down here with us. And that's what he did. But here's the problem. Many people just don't believe it. Simple as that. But let's move on. Verse 7 again, Philippians chapter 2. But made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the stake. See that? Let's emphasize this one point, because we want to tie that thought into something else. Although Scripture says he thought it not robbery to be equal, which is why you find in the Scriptures that it mentions Yahweh. Okay. And again, being a proxy, a representative for Yahweh. He's a messenger. And we're going to touch on that in a minute, because being a messenger, that means that incorporated in his name is a message. Likewise, incorporated in this name is a message, which we'll get to. But in John chapter 14, verse 28, it reads, Ye have heard how I said unto you, I go away, and come again unto you. If you love me, you would rejoice, because I said, I go unto the Father. For my Father is greater than I. Now, why did he say that? Could it be, he already possessed, he's the light of the world. So that means if the Father is greater, does that also mean that he's that greater light? Does that mean that he's that lesser light that can only, just as the moon reflects the light of the sun? Yeah, I can only do what my Father commands me to do. I can only do what I see my Father do. A reflection, an image of the invisible mighty one. You see? Who became flesh. In John chapter 1, let's go back there, something else that he mentioned. He says, no man had seen the mighty one at any time. The only begotten Son, once again, because he's the only thing that was created by the Father. But when it said, no man has seen the mighty one at any time, keep that thought in your mind. That's what we want to touch on. What does that mean? No man has seen the mighty one at any time. Okay? He says, the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he had declared him. In other words, now during this fourth day, which he said there were going to be two great lights created on the fourth day. That means the knowledge of a Father and and a son, a greater and a lesser, would be revealed during the fourth millennium. That's what it says. Because up until this time, all Israel knew was Yahweh Elohim. Question. How many of you who are listening right now believe that this name right here, Yah, oh, that's just his nickname? That's all. That's just the short. Instead of saying Yahweh, don't be, putting forth so much energy. Just call him Yah. That's how we do in our world today. Instead of calling somebody William, just call him Bill or Will. You see? Not so in the Hebrew language, brothers and sisters. This didn't exist first and then it chops down and becomes this. No, this existed first and it builds up, and this is an extension of this. Okay? But how many of you believe that Yah is the shortened form of Yahweh? Incorrect. This is the name of the Father. And even as a testimony among scholars of Hebrew grammar, this is referred to as the parent root. That's not coincidence, brothers and sisters. That's the knowledge of the Creator settling in the knowledge of humanity. So let's move on. He says that he hath declared him. Now in John chapter 5 and verse 37, it says, and the Father himself which hath sent me hath borne witness of me. You have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. So now, he's not only saying that no man has ever seen the Father, he's also saying no man has ever heard the Father. So what does this do for us? Let's move on. In John chapter 6 and verse 45, it says, it is written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught of Allah. Every man, therefore, that heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of Allah. He hath seen the Father. Okay? So if this is true, that no man has ever seen the Father, that no man has ever heard the Father, who is this talking about? Let's go to Genesis chapter 18. It says, verse 1, and Yahweh appeared unto him. Either that's telling the truth or that's a lie. But do you believe? I believe it's the truth. I believe that his word is the truth. I believe that the Torah is the truth, that the commandments is the truth. And if it said that Yahweh appeared, that means Yahweh appeared and Abraham saw him. But it wasn't the Father. How many of you believe that Yahweh is the Father? No. Yah is the Father. Yahweh Elohim is the Word. And Yahweh Elohim became flesh and was now referred to as Yahushua HaMashiach. So let's move on. It said, Yahweh appeared to him in the plains of Mamre. And he sat in the, and he is referred to Abraham. And he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men. So you got 3 men coming, stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself toward the ground. So let's go down to verse 16. It says, and the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. Now, let's go to Genesis chapter 19, verse 1, just to verify something. Okay, in Genesis 19 and 1, we're connecting this to 18 and verse 16. It said that the 2 men rose up and looked towards Sodom. But then in 19 and verse 1 it said, and there came 2 angels to Sodom at evening. So the 2 men of the 3, 2 of them are specifically mentioned to be angels. So now, let's go back to Genesis 18, and in verse 20 it says, and Yahweh said. So now he's speaking. So the scripture said, or the Messiah said, that nobody has either saw the Father or heard the Father. Now in this one instance, okay, and it just so happened